2 days away from opening day. What's your outlook on the Mariners this year?
I am very bullish on the Mariners in 2024. And I'll be honest, I flirted with picking them to go to the World Series this year. Wow. I didn't do it, but I don't think that it is unrealistic to believe that they have the talent and the ability to win a championship with this team. There are still flaws on this roster, but there are flaws on every roster. And when you have the kind of pitching that they do, particularly the kind of starting pitching that they do, it can take you a really long way. And I understand that up until this point, it hasn't, but they also haven't had a full year with the 5 guys that they've got. And, well, Brian Wu's starting the season on the injured list. I think the expectation is that he's going to be back and should make a, pretty reasonable number of starts. And that's what this is all going to come down to, guys. If the starting pitching stays healthy, the way that it has in recent seasons, I think that the Mariners are going to be in a fantastic position despite being in an absolute meat grinder of a division in the American League West.
Well, this is weird, Brock. I thought we were going to talk to Passan every week, but apparently it's going to be John Morosi. I'm just very surprised. The level of optimism is shocking to me. I thought we were getting Jeff Passan, and instead, did you call the wrong number? Did you call Morosi instead? What's happened here?
He sounds like Passan.
I know, but the words are very Morosi-like.
I know. It's amazing. I have hair, too. Somehow, like this,
So if we were to rewind,
John's my boy. I'm sorry. You know what? He speaks a lot more languages than I do, so
sure
he's got that going for him.
If we were to rewind the clock back to this exact time last year, a couple days before the opener, when we had you on for the first time, were you as bullish in 23 as you seem to be in 24?
No, and I think that's in large part because not just of the moves they made this winter, which, remember, like early on in the winter, it was a nightmare for Mariners fans. Jared Kelenic had been traded in essentially a salary dump. Gino Suarez had been traded essentially in a salary dump. And still, when you look at the Mariners' payroll for this upcoming season, it is not where it should be. It's very simple. They're in a special window right now, and this is when you add. And I still don't think that they've added to the extent that they could have or should have. But this is the reality that they're dealing with right now. When you objectively look at this roster and who they have, I think that Julio Rodriguez has as good of a chance as anyone to win the MVP award in the American League this year. I think that Cal Raleigh is really going to cement himself as one of the best catchers in the big leagues. I think that J.P. Crawford has the ability to turn around and be a 5-win player again like he was last year. And bringing in Jorge Polanco and adding a bat like Mitch Garver and Mitch Haniger 2.0 in Seattle, we've got things that to me make this a better team than it was last season.
Let's focus on Julio for a moment. Year 3 for Julio. By the way, I totally agree with your take that he seems to be poised for an MVP kind of a season.
Can I just interrupt? I'm working on a Julio story right now that's going to be so cool, and I'm so excited for it.
Give us a hint? Anything?
No, I don't want to do that. I want it to be a surprise because I want Mariners. It's a good story.
Cool.
This is not going to be about $4.5 million being stolen from his bank account.
Good. That's good to hear. Yeah. Good.
I just he just has everything put together so well for somebody who's 23 years old. Like, he just gets it. And I think there comes that point in every player's career where their mental game matches up to their physical game, and that's when we see the absolute apex of what they can be. And I think this is the year that happens for Julio Rodriguez, which is, kind of frightening considering how good he's been in his first 2 seasons already, Mike.
Is year 3 sort of a typical season for a player to put everything together?
I don't have anything objective to back that up. In my head, and having covered this game 20 plus years, that sounds right. It's almost like you've shaken off the doldrums of a rookie season, and you've gotten through that sophomore year that can be so difficult for some guys. And you're almost a veteran by that 3rd year. And it's silly to say that about someone who's 23 years old, that they're a veteran at this point, but you understand not just the rigors of the game and what it takes to succeed, but you're starting to mature and understand your place in it as well, and your place inside of a clubhouse that increasingly is going to be turning toward you to be a leader and to be a central figure. You're not the young guy anymore. You're not green in that 3rd year. Like you are established at that point. And I suppose the contract that the Mariners gave Julio Rodriguez cemented him in that place. But it's more about, I think, accepting and acknowledging that place rather than it being foisted on you because of a dollar figure, because of the number of years you're going to be around.
Okay, Jeffrey, give me realistic expectations for Julio in 24. Give me unrealistic expectations.
Oh, man. Realistic expectations. I don't think it is. I'm going to look at rate stats, right? I think that he's going to hit somewhere in the 280, 290 range. I think he's going to get on base at least 35% of the time, and I think he's going to slug, 525 minimum. I think the power is going to really pick up this year. And unrealistic, 45. Like I could see him hitting 45 home runs this year. I could see him stealing 45 bases this year. That is at the edge, that's 95th percentile projection right there. Mm-hmm. But I do not discount anything with him. And it goes back to that combination of physical with the growth of mental. I think he's finally beginning to understand who he is and where he fits into this, not just place in Seattle and anchor of the Mariners franchise, but in the entirety of Major League Baseball. Like, he's one of the guys now. He's one of the guys who everyone in the sport is going to look at and say, I wish I were him. And I think instead of cowering from it or shying away, he embraces it and runs with it.
A couple more on the Mariners, and then I definitely want to make sure we have some time to ask you about the biggest national story here in baseball. But, kind of talking through the need for their pitching to stay healthy. I agree with you. If they're healthy, they're an unbelievable pitching staff. But already we're seeing, Brian Wu go to the injured list, and we'll see how long this takes. Hopefully it's just, the 10 or 12 days they're talking about. But you kind of look through it, and in the last few years, Jeff, all the guys they've either graduated or traded, Kirby, Miller, Wu, Gilbert, Brash, plus trading Williamson and Levi Stout. I mean, that's like 7 or 8 guys that they've all brought up through their system, and now there's not like a tremendous amount of depth left in the high minors. What do you do if
I don't know, man? If you can fill in with Emerson Hancock in that
he's the one
spot, you're doing okay.
He's the one,
and if you can pop a guy like Logan Evans toward, and for those unfamiliar with Logan Evans, he was an average college starter who I believe the Mariners took in the 7th round last year. He was a later round draft pick, and I got a text from somebody from a scout this spring who said, "Do you know who Logan Evans is?" And I said, "No, should I?" And he said, "Yes, absolutely." He's on the backfields with the Mariners, like sitting 99. And that's, That's why I'm as bullish on the Mariners guys as I am. It's not just the talent that they've got in the big leagues right now. It's a sustained ability to draft, sign internationally, and develop guys. And the things that I've heard this spring about Johnny Farmelo and Colt Emerson, 2 of their 3 first-round picks last year, these are guys who could both be top 25 prospects by the time the year is over.
Yeah. So you don't think they need to go out and acquire another pitcher?
No. Do you?
Not necessarily. Not like a big-name pitcher, but, those sort of 4A types of guys that just sort of help you get through a season.
Yeah, I mean, but that's not going to cost anything. Like that's not a difficult guy to find. And if they can scratch together a little coin, Mike Clevenger's still out there as well. Like there are options. I'm just saying.
I refuse to watch Mike Clevenger pitch for any amount of time. I'm out. That's a non-starter.
That's okay, fine, whatever. My point is there are guys who are available and they will not cost a whole lot to get. And so if, I think if there's another injury, maybe that's something you consider. And it's normally I wouldn't suggest that for a team. But when you're in a division with the Houston Astros and the Texas Rangers, every win's going to count. And I do think all 3 of them are playoff teams this year, but it is going to be health dependent all the way around. And the Astros rotation is, about as banged up as any out there these days. Justin Verlander is going to start the year on the injured list. Luis Garcia is going to be out for half the season. Lance McCullers out for half the season. Jose Urquidy has an elbow problem. There's a lot of issues right now with the Astros, and that's something that it's why I think a good start. It's not a necessity, but it would be a really nice luxury for the Mariners to start off hot.
Is Polanco good?
Polanco's really good, yes.
Can you give me some assurance, a Mariners fan, some assurance he's not Colton Wong?
I think Jorge Polanco at his peak was much better than Colton Wong at his peak, and I'm just like I look at he's 30 years old, like he's still in the prime of his career, late prime at least, and I do not anticipate that Jorge Polanco, when you look at the consistency of his bat, the big question with him has always been, is he going to stay on the field? He had a spectacular season in 2021, and since then I think has played 100 games and 80 games in back-to-back seasons. If he is out on the field, he's a genuine 30-home run threat. Probably going to be likelier in the 20s, but it's still the type of bat that plays in a championship lineup.